Hello, everybody. Sorry about the unprofessional nature of today's episode. We're obviously we are lacking Josie again today, who controls all of the right buttons and the right programs, etc. Today we've got Andy Sawkins. He's a triple A game developer that has moved into indie.
Adam,
sorry, I've been It's all going wrong already.
Can we start again? Is it too late? Is this actually live? Oh.
It is. We're live, unfortunately. Everyone is probably well aware that I'm not as articulate as Josie is anyway. So, but yes, as you can see, there's just me today. Danny is busy with something that I don't think we're allowed to say on air at the moment. And Josie is unfortunately she has we've decided that she can't be on the show until she grows a beard, because basically everybody else has a beard, and that's it essentially. So yes, we've got Adam. I'm sorry about that, Adam.
It's okay.
We are just basically going to talk game dev, games, opinions. He's already had quite a few opinions in the pre-show, so hopefully this will be quite an interesting show. So yeah, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us what you do, and we'll go from there.
My name's Andy. Apparently, I am a full-time indie game developer. I've been a full-time indie dev for about 4 years. Blimey, 4 and a bit years now. Before then, I spent 12 years in the games industry working on AAA games, the most famous of which that I've worked on was the Burnout series. I also worked on Jericho, Race Driver Grid, Colin McRae, Formula One, dozens. I wrote nearly 80 different releases while I was in the industry. And before then, I spent my life writing games for the hell of it. And that's me. I write games and I collect Lego.
Admirable. You got into it well before I have, and I wish I'd got into it earlier. You know, when I was younger, I really do wish that I'd embraced my Commodore 64 a little bit more than I did.
I go back even further than that, I'm afraid. I first started programming on a VIC-20, and this is true. I was 4 years old, and my babysitter taught me to program to shut me up because I was bored of the games, and I'm like, how do these work? How do these work? How do people write games? And he actually started to teach me to program. Right. So I have been programming literally for the last 34 years, and you can work out how old I am.
That's I'll be honest, I haven't spoken to many people who program longer than I have, and I've been doing it 16 years, and not games development, but development in general. Yeah, it's very interesting. So yes, to start off the show, first of all, Josie's asked me to mention and talk about the giveaway for the Gunner glasses. I don't know, again, as I said last week, I don't know that much about them, but basically if you send Josie an email and you tell her, give her a bit of information about what you want to see on the show, what kind of topics you want us to discuss. Do you want us to go more into procedural development? Do you want us to go into, I don't know, more detail about shaders or anything to do with game development, even if it's not necessarily about the development side of things? We do all kinds of subjects on this show. So if you send an email to voice@MMOBuff.TV and give her your suggestions, next week we're going to give away a pair of these Gunner glasses, and we're going to randomly select someone next week. What we normally do on the beginning of the show, Adam, is to I nearly called you Andy again then. I'm sorry. is we ask a quick question just to get people into the flow of things. One of Josie's favourites. I'm gonna ask this because we tend to ask everybody this. If you could be a tree, what tree would you be and why? It's probably the most difficult as well.
Yeah, so, I'm a programmer, and I grew up down at the seaside where we don't get trees. So I've got two answers, I'm afraid. One of which is the larch, for obvious Monty Python references. The other one is a quad tree because I'm a programmer, and my life sometimes is just quad trees, which I realise is the wrong type of tree.
Can you explain what a quad tree is to everybody?
A quad tree. So a quad tree is a method of arbitrarily splitting down spaces. So in such a way that every point in the world connects to 4 other points. So if you're in your living room connects only to the hallway in the kitchen, and the hallway only connects to outside. So and the kitchen connects to your pantry. So if you're in your pantry, you can tell from visibility occlusion that you can see the kitchen, but you cannot see the living room. So you use quad trees as a way of splitting down massive worlds into much simpler, manageable chunks.
Okay, very interesting.
I think
something I haven't come across. Again, I'm a relatively new indie developer, and I use one engine, and that one engine has things like occlusion culling and things like that built into it, so I don't really need to worry too much. I just need to know how to use the UI side of things, which is good and bad. It's not necessarily. I should probably learn a bit more about that side.
Is it Unity that you're using?
It is, yes. It's Unity, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with Unity, unfortunately, is completely geared towards pre-baked scenes. So you create a scene, you bake the lighting, you bake the occlusion, and it's brilliant for that. It's so good. My game is 100% procedural, and that means I cannot use nav meshes, I cannot use lighting, I cannot use occlusion. All of that we've had to write ourselves because Unity has no support for it. So my life is endlessly wishing that I was just doing a corridor shooter or something like that.
So your game's Fortress Craft?
Fortress Craft,
What is
Fortress Craft Evolved. Yeah. So Fortress Craft is a voxel-based mining, logistics, and base building and defense game. So it takes its roots from Dwarf Fortress, Total Annihilation, Transport Tycoon, Minecraft, obviously, and builds it into you're actually surviving on an alien planet, but you're actually building a massive mining operation. You've got hundreds and hundreds of machines. You've got robot arms sorting stuff. If you know Factorio, that's probably the closest to our game. If you take Factorio meets Minecraft, it's probably a good way of describing it.
Okay.
And yeah, it's coming along nicely. We've got some amazing engine stuff. The draw distance is in the region of like 2.5 kilometers. And I spent say 12 years writing console games, and on console games you have a very fixed amount of power to write your game in. You've only got 32 megs of RAM, you've only got this much. On a PC I have oodles, so what we've been doing is we've been trying to make our game expands to fit your computer. So if you've got a 32 gigabyte 16 core monster, it will use it. If you're running on like a single core netbook, it will use that too, and it will
very interesting.
expand to fill. Well, the interesting thing is we get people. We've had two issues. One guy says, "What's wrong with your game? Why isn't it optimized? You're using too much CPU time." I was like, "How much of it?" He goes, "You're using 51%." I'm like, "No, I have wasted 49% of your computer." Think of it that way. And it's like, but most games don't use that. I'm like, yeah, most games are wasting your massive gaming rig. Another guy complained that his computer ran hotter in Fortress Craft than in Battlefield 4. So his GPU was running at like 92 degrees because we're vertex heavy in shader light, so we cane those transform units and we really cause machines to heat up.
Yeah.
And one guy goes, "I can't play your game because my fans are spinning too fast." And I was like, "Have you tried cleaning your GPU?" And it's like, "Never done that." Like, clean the heatsink, clean the fans, and he goes, "Oh, it runs okay." We have a serious problem though in Alienware laptops. If you run our game on an Alienware laptop, the GPU gets up to 99 degrees within about 30 seconds, and then the computer throttles back to keep it going. And this is so we've just had to say to people, like, if you've got an Alienware laptop, I'm sorry, the cooling on them is rubbish. I'm actually talking on an Alienware laptop. I love my Alienware, but it does get rather warm, and it does not run. Doesn't run Fortress Craft reliably because they don't have the cooling to cope with an actual demanding game, which is, to my mind, as a pretty much a one-man team, it's shocking that I can squeeze more out of a computer than the devs at EA on Battlefield. So.
Well, I think again you're approaching it from a different angle, though. By the sounds of it, that's one of the principles. You're trying to use most of the CPU and GPU power, and then whereas they are. I suppose they're looking for a wider audience in terms of. Well, actually, no. Thinking about it, your game probably would.
It's scalable. I played World of Warcraft for a very, very long time, and I see lots of complaints going, "Oh, it looks rubbish," and it's like, the lower the system spec for the entry point for your game, the more people can play it. It's that simple. If your game is aimed at the highest end, you're looking at 1% of the market. If you're at the lowest end, you're looking at 100%. So we've designed a game that you can scale the draw distance, you can turn off all the physics effects and the particles, so you can scale it right in and run on a low-end computer, or you will scale it up and run on the highest-end computer that I can find. So it's amazing more games don't do that. People buy these gaming rigs. I mean, God, I dread to think how much my gaming rig, it's £800-900, maybe £1,000 for the video cards and the GPUs, and CPUs, RAM, fast SSDs, and then I'm playing games and I'm bring up Task Manager, and it's using like 8% of the CPU time. I'm like, great, thanks guys.
We've got bottlenecks, haven't we? Normally with usually at the GPU. Well, sorry, not the GPU. The CPU side usually is the bottleneck, isn't it? The GPU is usually a lot more powerful.
Well, yes and no. So again, going back to consoles, the PS2 had two threads that you could run, 2 hardware threads, and we parallelized the rendering and the update. So the rendering happened down here, whilst the update for the next frame. So they ran in parallel. So you had both cores of the computer running flat out. And now we've moved on to next-gen consoles. We moved on to the 360, and you had 6 hardware threads, and we had 6 all running up. So you had all the CPU down here and the GPU down here, then all the physics stuff down here, and then you had like shader calculations of VisCalc. So we used all of the machine. Because you're on a fixed platform, if you use 6 of the threads and somebody else uses 3, your game will look twice as good. It will do twice as much. It's that simple. On PC, though, devs get lazy, and they heavily use a single core. So you've got 4 GHz computer. A single core is very quick, but it's not as quick as an 8 core. So right now we're struggling to use more than 4 cores. It's something we want to try and parallelize our procedural generation. So we actually go, well, he's got 12 cores. We use 4, so we generate 8 segments simultaneously.
Right.
So it's a question of, as a PC developer, from the beginning of your program, you go, right, I'm writing a game. What parts of it can I multi-thread? What parts of it can I run in parallel? We've got this glorious concept in Fortresscraft of low-frequency tick. So we have every 500 milliseconds a thread fires, and it does a bunch of work, and it must finish that work within 500 milliseconds, which is half a second. Again, I'm used to doing stuff on the sort of the 8 millisecond timer, something like 500. So all of the machines do a massive update, and it's a big CPU update, but it tears up a lovely massive chunk of one of your CPUs, and it's great to be able to do this. We've got the high frequency tick at 60 Hertz, we've got the low frequency tick at 2 Hertz, and then we've got all the other stuff. So we're kind of trying to spread out and just melt people's computers. I'm really tired of games not using my PC. I really, really am.
Now this kind of takes us on to one of the points that we said we were going to talk about, the transition from AAA to indie. Because the reason I say that is because as an indie, although I'm kind of understanding what you're talking about, you've been involved in the much more low level stuff than I will ever probably get involved with.
Lucky you.
Because again, it's one of those things that it's all time and money and the amount of effort you need to put into things. There's a lot to learn as somebody who's come into it brand new. Anyway, I've been doing it for a year now. I'm only just starting to get my head around how shaders work and what they're for and kind of how everything fits together. And I imagine there's a lot of indies out there like that, but they get games out there and some of them do well off it, some of them don't do so well off it. But when it comes to transitioning from that AAA mindset into an indie mindset, it sounds like you've kind of taken your experience a little bit from the AA world and you're still trying to do a little bit of that, or you haven't taken advantage of maybe using an engine or something like that.
So a lot of it is mindset. So as a AAA dev, you start work on your game, and 9 months later the game ships. And what's the largest game I worked on? Probably 200 people. 200 people start work for 9 months, ship the game. You have to ship the game at 9 months. You can't go, oh, my bit's kind of a bit behind. It must ship. Now, as an indie dev, and this is something I am guilty of, but I try my best, that last 10%, it's not fun. You've got to track down the bit that means that after 6 hours of this level, it crashes here or it corrupts the save on this. It's not fun. And if you're not a professional dev with a professional background and the willpower, I guess is the right word, to sit there and grind through that bug, you're not going to fix it. The best example is Fez and Phil Fish, amateur dev, lovely bloke, I'm sure. Maybe not, I don't know. Apparently not. managed to release a game with loads of bugs in it, and they went, "Oh, but I was thinking I could patch it for free." And it's like, oh, that's totally the wrong mindset. This is not the mindset of someone releasing a game to millions of people. You know when you're going to aim for. If you've got to give up watching television, give up weekends to hit that date, you do so. Crunch is a very, very big part of game dev. It's a very big part of any creative industry. Unfortunately, I mean, this summer is probably the first summer I've actually sat outside in like 15 years because we've had crap weather since I quit the games industry. Before then, summers were not a thing. I worked through my evenings. I got up when it was pretty dark, and I went home 3 in the morning when it was dark. I mean, those are the hours we kept. But as an indie dev, you can't get distracted going, I'm just going to put this really cool thing. It's just going to take me like 6 weeks, and then you realise that it doesn't really work in 6 months. Yeah, and suddenly, if I don't ship a patch, if I don't ship a game, I don't make money. It's literally that straightforward. And bringing that infused, I don't know the right word. It's not quite willpower, but just bringing that determination to get your thing finished out there through. That's what splits apart the professional indie devs from the amateur indie devs.
I was just going to say,
you see a lot of games, and you sort of look, you're going, they've just gone, I don't want to do this anymore. Ship, just whatever. I'll patch it. So
yeah, I think you mentioned something there about. I mean, I consider myself an amateur indie dev. I'm trying my hardest. I'm a professional software developer, but when it comes to the indie dev, I don't know enough about it to call myself professional. But I do approach it professionally. There's different types. Again, there's the bedroom coders that don't really think of it in terms of this may make money in the future. They just think about it as, I want to make a game and I'm really excited about it. And then you get people like me who kind of sits in the middle of, I'm erring on the side of caution most of the time. I'm trying to do things professionally, and I'm trying to kind of get myself out there into the community and get involved at the same time as trying to do the coding professionally, and then realizing that there's so much skill involved in the even if I'm using an engine, in the modeling side of things and the shader side of things and the concept art, and there's a whole raft. I'm looking at possibly, I'm doing a 3D game, possibly of like I wouldn't say AAA standard, but I'm going for high fidelity, and that's the problem. Maybe I shouldn't have made that decision early on. Maybe I was aware that there would be lots of work involved in it, but again, I'm quite a determined person, and I'll keep going with it forever and a day. Even if it takes me 10 years to get it out, I'll still go. But not everyone will do that, as you said. Yeah,
a lot of the difference between me and me and you is I've done it all before. And when someone says, "Hey, we should do this thing," and I'm like, "No, I tried that. I waited 3 months, it didn't work." Yeah. It's the angels rush, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So a lot of it is, if I've done something before, I can do it again very quickly. So if I want to do Perlin procedural landscapes, I'll take my old code, I've done it. If I then want to do, I'm trying to think I haven't done, but let's say ray tracing, I'll be like, ooh, I wonder how I approach this problem. And then, but because I've been doing it for so many years, I might look at that going, that's going to be a dangerous thing. I mean, that's a big question mark. I mean, right now, I have been rewriting the landscape generation for Fortress Craft, and it's a nightmare. And I can see it stretching away for weeks, but it has to be done, unfortunately. And it's one of those, I'm looking at going, this is a dangerous thing to write. It could take me weeks or months or years. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what the solutions are. There's no readily accepted off-the-shelf solutions. I mean, this is the other thing. Don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah. There is no shader you want to write that somebody hasn't already written and put on the internet.
That's
if
one
you
of the
can
things.
Buy it off the Unity store for £1, buy it off the Unity store for £1.
I can say that from first-hand experience that even though the asset stores, some of the assets on there are fairly expensive, we're looking at, for example, at the moment, looking at Shader Forge to write our own shaders. But you might be right there. It might be worth, looking at existing shaders and reusing them. As I'm getting to understand things more, I'm realizing that these things exist, and yes, people have probably already done it. Even though I'm new to it, it doesn't mean that it hasn't already been discovered. I came across pathfinding algorithms by accident the other day. I was looking at, I've got a networking system in my game, and it's essentially a graph, and essentially I wanted to calculate the cheapest route based on security levels around the network, depending on which devices have been hacked. And
to Dijkstra's.
Yeah, and I went to Dijkstra's, and I didn't even know that it existed, but I'd already written a document that explained how I needed to do it. Fair enough, I hadn't taken everything into consideration, but a lot of it, and it was quite nice and refreshing that existed, you know.
I actually wrote a whole game around Dijkstra's. I did a game about routers. So routers connected to other routers, and you shifted packets, and then packets became congested, so it routed around.
Right.
And then I find out that Dijkstra's is the algorithm that routers use on the internet. I was like, oh, brilliant. So I simulated the internet using the algorithm used.
That's exactly what I've just done.
The internet.
So my network is basically everything is connected to everything and can be configured and dynamically set up. But yeah, it's really cool that people have already done this. And then I started looking at the A-star pathfinder and realised it wasn't quite right for what I wanted to do.
With Dijkstra's, the most amazing thing, he's a Dutch mathematician, and he wrote it in the 60s or something.
50s,
he's never used a computer ever. He basically is the guy that made the internet work, and he developed the whole algorithm on a chalkboard. Because I've seen the photos, and I'm looking at this algorithm in code going, this is insanely clever and brilliant, and he did it on a chalkboard. I'm like, yeah, it's a whole level of genius, like way beyond me.
Yeah, with symbols that I don't even know existed. You know, all this mathematician stuff. I do admire that. Unfortunately, I don't come from a mathematics and academic background. Again, as a proper games programmer, someone who's in AAA, who's writing engines, you need to understand all that kind of stuff.
Well, you say that actually. I do have a lot of people ask me the same question, which is, I'd like to get into game dev. What should I learn? And I'm like, you see, so I failed all of my GCSEs. I failed maths. I failed English. I didn't go to university.
Oh, have we lost you?
I math symbols. I'm here. Hello.
You're back. You kind of just died a little bit then, but you're back now. There we
Hello.
go. Say that all again.
I have no formal maths background. My background is entirely self-taught. So when you talk about math symbols, my other half is a theoretical mathematician, and she goes, "Oh, it's just pi over lambda theta delta." I'm like, what? X equals y times that I get, and it's interesting because I don't have any of that background. That's all come self-taught, and I wish that when I was at school, you get taught stuff at school that's very useful,
very relevant.
Do you remember Pythagoras? So here's the guy, Pythagoras. So that's the long side of the triangle is equal to the square of that plus the square of that. And my question always at school was the same thing, which is, if I can measure this and I can measure this, why can't I measure that one? And they're like, it'll be very useful in life.
Yeah, it's a theory.
If you're not a games programmer, I have no idea where you would use it. But I use Pythagoras. I use Pythagoras, oh my god, 50 times a day in coding. If I wonder how when you're using dot products, all of these things, all Pythagoras. And I was like, why didn't you teach me a useful use for this mathematics skill? And I would have paid attention in school, because I didn't. I didn't pay attention in school whatsoever. And I'm old enough, so there was no programming GCSEs. I mean, I just used to break out of the school's menu system and just write my own code. You weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But I did it. Because we had no formal education at all.
We've had a number of questions come in, mainly about Fortress Craft by the looks of it, so I'm going to ask you a few of them. Adverto has said, modding support for Fortress Craft, will it be coming?
So we currently have no direct mod support. We are a Unity-based game, and the code is unobfuscated. So, and we are mod-friendly. So if you want to write mods for game, I will help you. I will take you through the file format. I will teach you where the textures are, anything you want to know. We've already had people mod in new models and new textures into the game. The best thing I can say is, because we're Unity, we are exactly as moddable as Kerbal Space Program.
Right.
And you know how modded that is. We are definitely more moddable than Minecraft, because we are an open, unobfuscated source base, and we love mods. I cut my teeth writing Doom mods. I was like, look, if I just put a sound, I could replace this gun sound with a fart sound. I've modded Doom. 92 was bad.
Yeah, I was into modding when I was a Quake 2 player, and we did a lot of it. You know, modding and writing maps and creating pack files and all kinds of stuff. I believe Josie wants to say something, actually. I think her disembodied voice shall appear shortly. And there we
That's
go.
definitely one way to put it. Hello, everybody. Yes, hi. I just wanted to tackle a couple of the questions that were coming in from a variety of people. One, yes, this is a show all about development, so if you have questions about independent development, engines, things like that, this is the place to do it. I'm also going to, after I finish asking this next question for the lovely, I'm going to call you Andy now, even though your name's not Andy. I just feel the need to pick on Chris, because, yes. But for Adam, I will throw a question out for you. But I will also then put up the competition for the Gunner glasses. I will tell you guys, I don't think you're going to get any Adobe-type answers from this group that is currently sitting in front of you. However, I like the question that Sanitation Gaming has brought up about, is C++ actually a good programming code? Or is it a good coding language? Now, I'm going to throw out my thoughts, and then I'm going to disappear, put the Gunners thing up, and let you guys continue. And I'm going to state, it depends on the engine you're working in, because C# is also pretty common as well. But on that note, I leave you guys to continue, and I will put up competition information again.
So,
I'm going to give a completely different answer to that.
So was I. So I'll answer first. I don't have any C++ experience. I have seen it and worked with it in, like, when I say experience, I haven't put any games together or programmed with it. But I do know that it is a very low-level language, and it's very focused on managing memory manually. It's not a beginner's language, I wouldn't say. It's certainly not a beginner's language. If you want to get into games development, go with an engine. There's so many out there. So many of them are very cheap these days. Unreal Engine 4 is $19 a month or something ridiculous. Unity is probably the most expensive at the moment, but Unity is also the first one that offered a subscription model. I think that's...
It's also free, don't forget. Unity has a free version that's really good.
There is that. I've got to the point now where I actually need quite a lot of the pro features, so I say need, I'm working with them. I could probably work around them, but yeah, you can get Unity for free. So, I mean, start with that. It's so easy, there's so much support out there. C++, the problem with C++, in my experience, of trying to get into games before I knew Unity existed, and other engines, obviously, before I was willing to kind of learn a new engine, is that C++ kind of... most of I've been told this anyway, most of the examples out there are bedroom coders, and there's not that much of a support structure there that I understand on the internet, as there is with as many of the engines these days. So what's your take on C++?
His question can be read in two ways. Is it good to know C++? Yes. If you want to get into the games industry, 99.9% of console games are written using C++. It's that simple. They all are. The only ones that aren't are Unreal-based games and Unity-based games. Not sure about the CryEngine. I only used that very briefly. So if you want to get into the games industry, not having a strong C++ skill set is not going to get you very far. If your question is C++ a good language? Oh God, no, it's bloody awful. It's just... C. It is better than C. C++, how can I describe it? It's very powerful, but it has no safeguards. If you for instance, if you say, print this string, and you miss out what's called the terminator, it will just print your string and then the rest of memory until it happens to find a terminator. I have dumped on a PlayStation the entire contents of memory out to the printf function, and then the console just dies. And I'm like, why is it crashing? And someone goes, you've missed out the slash in your slash.
That's very unforgiving. So it doesn't, at compile time, it doesn't tell you, whoa.
No. You can run off with null pointers. You can reference garbage parts of RAM. The language is awful. C is even worse. You don't get inheritance. You don't get proper skills. C# is very good. They have fixed a great deal of issues with the C++ language. The drawback with C# is it is slower. Now, if you know what you're doing, it's only in the region of a few % slower. And you'll never notice it. Not in the real world. You just simply won't notice that speed difference. It's certainly better than going the other extreme and using assembly, where it is very quick. But these days, you are not as good as a compiler. Compilers these days are absolutely amazing. So yeah, if you want to get into the games industry, C++, definitely, no ifs, no buts. The industry may change at next gen, not likely at this point. When I joined the industry in '99, we were just moving from C to C++. So Gumball Rally, MotoGP, and Rally Fusion, they were the first 3 games that anyone in that studio had done in C++.
Wow.
All the previous games have been in C, and that's that recent. 15 years ago, so it's not likely we're moving on anytime soon. If you want to become an indie dev and do your own stuff, C# is a glorious language, and I highly recommend it.
I am a professional C#
I'm just going
programmer. Sorry, go on.
I'm going to jump in just real quick again. Lockned Monsters wanting to know how to get into coding, and I wanted you guys to talk a little bit, if you could, about how you would maybe recommend picking an engine and learning the language, or something else along those lines. And for those of you wondering who the disembodied voice is, hi, I'm Pseudo. I am running MMOBuff right now, the tag in the chat. And on that note, I leave you guys. Again, don't worry, I'm only looking over your shoulders to steal your code. Back to you guys.
So I'll let you go. Go on.
Okay. So with picking an engine, I mean, these days, you have 4 choices. You have write your own engine. Don't do that one. You've got the Cry engine. Don't do that one. So you're basically left with Unreal or Unity. I personally cannot recommend Unreal because of the horrendous lack of cross-platform stuff. Unity is available on every platform known to man. It really, really is. If you go with Unity, you've got a whole bunch of choices of language. C# is the most widely supported and the biggest one. If you want to get into doing it, seriously, dude, close this tab, open up a new tab, Google Unity, download it, then Google Unity tutorial, and there are a million web pages telling you about how to program, and it's wonderful.
I would say the first place to go when you're looking at Unity stuff specifically is go on to the Unity website, the knowledge base, and not necessarily the answers or the forums. If you go onto the website, there's a whole area that does loads of video tutorials that help show you and help you and explain how to work with the Unity objects and how to work with the UI, and that's where I started with Unity. I mean, bearing in mind I already had a lot of C# experience. I didn't touch C# in Unity for quite a while because I was just playing around with things and getting used to it, etc. And then Google is the answer. It's the answer to everything. Go,
But more than that, and if I can find it, I'll dig it. I wrote an article about it. More than anything else, how you will do it is dedication. It's simple as that.
Yes.
If you want to be a games coder, be a games coder. Absolutely, be a games coder. Don't let anybody stop you. My mum was quite supportive. She didn't understand it, but it was very good of her to sort of support me. But if you want to be a games coder, be one. If you have a computer, you have everything you need. That's I've just linked it in chat. That's a blog post I wrote about this because everybody said, "I want to be a games coder. You've made loads of money. How can I make loads of money?" And I'm like, well, okay, learn to write games. And then people say, well, what do I need to write games? And I was like, stop tweeting me and go and write some. Nothing is stopping you.
It's another repeating thing in the show. We always say, if you want to do it, be dedicated. You are the only point of failure, really, when it comes to it. I've been going through the last couple of weeks a pretty hard time with dev, and there's some things that I don't quite understand, and I'm trying to get through them, but I've come through the couple of weeks of hammering my head against the wall and getting nothing done at all, and now I'm at a point where I'm making progress again. So one other thing I suggest is when you get into it, switch around a little bit. Kind of, I consider things like the shaders and the models, a different discipline to the code. Well, it is, obviously, it's a totally different discipline to the coding. I've been trying to do everything in code, but there are some things that are better done done with models. I mean, you can generate meshes procedurally and move things around in the game procedurally, but that when it comes down to it, there are already a lot of tools there. You can take a lot of stuff off the asset store and get started with it. I haven't personally taken that route. I've got 1 or 2 assets that I use, but it's generally I've tried to learn everything myself as I went along.
So someone did ask actually an interesting question there, which is, what is the best program to make graphics for your game? What I found, and this is really interesting, technology is not as important as good assets. Someone can give you a low poly zombie with an amazing texture and animation set, and it's the best thing ever. So much more importantly than what program, get a good artist.
Yes.
And if you want to be an indie dev, best team, 2 people, 1 artist, 1 coder, and make sure he is a good artist and he can do good stuff, and he will make anything look great.
But the problem is determining as an indie, as a newbie, who is a good artist.
Yep.
Because I've been duped a few times myself. I've spoken to people and they know more than me, but only marginally. And when I've spoken to people who really know the stuff, you can really tell. But it took me a year to realise that some of these people weren't as knowledgeable as I thought they might have been, and I was relying on them a bit too much, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of the issue I have is I've worked with many artists over the years, and a lot of them, they do one great thing. Like one girl I was working with, she did we were doing a Bomberman style game, and she did this one sprite, and it was amazing. I'm like, that is perfect, that is glorious. She goes, great, we're done. I'm like, well, no, you've done 1 frame. Now you need to do like 200 frames of animation, and then 20 different variants. And she's like, well, that's a lot of work. And I'm like, how did you think games worked? How magic? And loads of people, they'll disappear. They're not reliable. They're not enthusiastic. You need someone who is as enthusiastic about the project as you are. And then, again, they'll see it through to completion. I currently work with a guy called Todd. He is the most amazing guy. I will throw anything at him. I say, Todd, do this. And he'll come back first time, every time, on time, perfect. And he's worth a dozen people who say they do something and they won't.
I envy you.
He's mine, and you can't have him.
My designers are, I mean, don't get me wrong, my designers are brilliant, but they're not, they're more modelers than anything, they don't tend to do the thinking outside of the box thing. There's a few of them that do that a little bit, but it's, it tends to be more, give me some concept art and I'll model it, which is good and bad in other words. We've had a lot of questions come in anyway, so while we've got a lull, I shall ask a few. How do you guys feel about Sony's Forge Lite engine? Do you think we would be able to play with that someday?
If it's anything like their last engine, Fire Engine, I'm not touching it with a barge pole.
That was
Fire Engine was
horrible processing architecture.
Fire Engine was the one that we wrote Dirt, Grid, and Dirt 2 using Fire Engine, and it's just a nightmare. So no.
I don't
anything
have
that is developed
of it, so.
Anything that is developed by a proprietary manufacturer, don't touch. So if you know XNA, Fortress Craft was originally written in XNA. XNA was, oh god, I don't know, 10 years old when they killed it, 12, and they promised it would be available for all platforms. Here are the platforms that came out on: Xbox 360, Windows PC, Windows Phone. Oh look, the 3 Microsoft platforms. Anything that has a word Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, ATI, Nvidia, or Intel at the beginning of it, be very, very wary that they are there to drive their agenda, which is to sell more. Unity are platform agnostic, hardware agnostic. They don't care. They want to sell copies of Unity, and they want you to sell games. Yeah. So, yeah, I would avoid anything with a barge pole that's by one of the big 3.
Yeah, I said I don't. I haven't even heard of that engine. Unfortunately, I'm trying to focus all my energy on Unity at the moment. Personally, we've got another question from Riggs Torvak. Do you think new tech should be public domain? Which would stop? Sorry. Do you think new tech would be public domain? Should be blah 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 blah. Sorry. Start all over again. Do you think new tech should be public domain? Which would stop companies holding exclusive rights for 18 months or so? Sorry, there's no punctuation.
Do you need me to ask these questions for you?
I'll be okay, Josie. I'm fine.
Okay. He needs to practice his reading. Come on.
I do.
The problem with that is if you look at, I don't know, let's say the iPad. That iPad cost Apple $5 billion or something. They don't just go, cool, here it is. The process of creating a new piece of hardware, a new piece of tech, costs billions and billions of dollars. And if companies didn't get exclusive rights, they wouldn't do it. So what you would actually do there is you would probably stagnate progression of society enormously. We are a capitalist society. We are driven by marketing demands, I'm afraid. So it's a nice idea. Probably wouldn't work out in...
there's a lot of idealist things when it's surrounding like that. And yeah, you're right. I think capitalism is a good thing, but sometimes when it turns into monopolies, that's when it becomes a problem. But we always jump on it as the public. We always tend to jump on that onto monopolies, and we'll sort it out in some way. Might take a few years, but we usually sort it out in some way.
I'm still waiting for a lot of these big tech companies to get split up. I mean, Facebook own a lot of things now. They own Oculus, they own Instagram, Google. They've got Twitch, and they've got Google Maps and Google Earth. Those are all things they bought up, and it's becoming waiting for those companies to get split apart into smaller companies, because the US government has the power to make it happen. I mean, they're all American companies. I mean, if Google say to Apple, "You've got a monopoly," actually, we're tearing you apart. There's nothing they can do about it. Though thankfully these days Apple don't have such a monopoly. Android and Apple are definitely loggerheads, and that's great. Competition is good for the consumer.
Definitely.
I have to say, this is one thing that I will say directly to people who are mentioning other voxel style games. Always blows my mind when people tell me I shouldn't have written my game because Minecraft, blah blah blah. If Minecraft has a competitor, it will become a better game. Don't support monopolies. Do support competition. You are the winner from competition as a consumer. Absolutely. And that's really, really important. Not just short term, but long term. Minecraft now is so unbelievably far ahead. They've got very lazy and they don't care. I care very much about my game, and on the few areas where we do come to loggerheads, where we have competing features, we try and make sure we're better than Minecraft, and it's interesting seeing Minecraft have to stay ahead of its competition. So support the underdog.
Yeah, I'm totally there with you. I'm a big indie game supporter these days. I've been previous to getting into indie development, I was a gamer and I played AAA games. That's all I played. I never played an indie game. I didn't really get the appeal. Now I've actually tried a few. It's a bit hypocritical not to try, to comment on them and not actually try them. Now I've actually tried a few. I'm addicted. They're brilliant. The amount of effort and passion and love and just pure imagination that goes into them is amazing to me.
One of my problems with the public perception of indie games is they get indie games and retro gaming mixed up. Like, if you look at a Deep Space Settlement, you look at Maya, I look at Fortress Craft. We are aiming for high fidelity graphics. I'm not trying to be a retro style game. I am as much tech and graphics as I can throw at the screen. And a lot of indie games, if you go to a lot of gaming conventions that are run by certain people, you come away thinking that indie meant pretentious two-dimensional platformer with some sort of deep and meaningful story, or a retro game. And it's like, it's not. Indie gaming simply means that the people who write the game are the people who benefit from the game. The people who write the game are the people who design the game. That the games are owned by the people, not by a company. My game, if I want to put giant pink elephants into my game and ship a patch this afternoon, I could do that.
I've seen a game with giant pink elephants.
Oh, really? Was it mine?
I can't remember the name of it, but there was it had more than just giant pink elephants. There was a lot of very crazy random stuff in it. I would say it was like a map, an old Quake 2 map that would have a review on Cranky Steve's, what was it called, somethingawful.com. Like the crazy bad layouts and stuff. But it was just an experiment, I think. But it's interesting. We've got a lot more questions.
So that's the best thing about indie gaming and about being an indie dev. When I worked at AAA and stuff, I come up with a good idea, I'd have to pass that up to my boss, and it'd go up to his line manager, it'd go up to one of the designers, and then they'd review it, and they'd go up to the main designer, it'd go up to the producer, and he might like it, and then it'd go back down and get redesigned by this guy, and it'd move all the way around, and then the feature may or may not go in. Whereas, say, Fortress Craft has a ZX Spectrum mode, and I did color clashing and interlacing, and it looks like it's running on a Spectrum. I just sat there and wrote it in a day because I wanted to, and I don't have to listen to anybody else. And that is what can make indie games brilliant, is they don't have to worry about all the levels of hierarchy. And if you are a gamer, if you're a AAA gamer, do not for 1 second think that the company cares about you or its game. They care about making money. The people who write the game, generally, we loved our games. Sometimes we hated them. Generally speaking, we loved our games. But the suits, the management, all of those people up above, the people in marketing, they do not care about the game. They simply care about getting their royalties. They care about selling the game. So do be aware that when you are supporting stuff like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Battlefield, those monstrous size games, you are directly not supporting indie devs who cannot write their games, who love their games, and you are supporting an insane corporation
And another
existence get money out of you.
Another beautiful thing about indie games, supporting an indie game developer, is that you can speak to them directly as well. A lot of the times, you can speak to the person who has direct control over that game. So if you speak to, I mean, Notch is, he's always on Twitter. He's responded to a few things I've said to him. And that's a famous one. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of indie developers, and if you like a game, you will be able to speak to that person in some way, shape, or form. And
I mean, that's again one of the best bits about being an indie dev. I mean, better on the Burnout game, on Burnout 3, Logitech sent us loads of steering wheels, and we put steering wheel support in. And there was a forum post going, "Oh my god, it'll be rubbish on the forum." And I actually posted, the entire post was actually, the game is quite good on a steering wheel. I've been playing it recently. And I got a written warning for communicating with the community without going to the community manager. And I was like, all I said was the steering wheel was quite good.
It's bureaucracy, though, isn't it? And we briefly discussed this before.
It's not necessarily bureaucracy, but everything that a company puts out about its game must be absolutely positive and absolutely be designed with the right tone. If you go on and you say, the new procedural gun system, actually it breaks sometimes, they're going to be very unhappy. What you hear about a game is carefully manufactured. What you see in the trailer is manufactured. What's in the demo is manufactured. All of these things. And as a developer, you are not allowed to talk to the community. Press releases are designed by the marketing department to go out. Whereas conversely, if you tweet me, I'll tweet you back. If you say, "Why is the PlayStation 3 so shit?" I'll be like, "I don't know. Aren't Sony shit at this?" And people are like, "Oh my god, you just badmouthed Sony." I'm like, I'll badmouth Microsoft as well if you'd like. Don't worry about it.
What are they going to do to us? At the end of the day, fair enough, they're a huge corporation with lawyers and all kinds of stuff, but we're allowed to criticise. It's under fair use at the end of the day. Review and criticism is fine. So. Yeah.
But if you are a second-party Sony title, they're not going to be very happy if you start saying, "Oh my god, the RSX chip is actually a complete piece of ass in the console." They're going to say, "Remove that. You're working for us. You're on our console. We want you to say nice things or nothing." So it's nice to be able to say things. I mean, I've been bad-mouthing the Ouya for ages, and then I got a game stick, and now I'm not saying anything bad about the Ouya. I'm saying bad things about the game stick because it's so bad. So.
Right, we keep getting lots of questions, and we're running past a lot of the answers. Right, do you think a good or easy to use engine will dumb down the knowledge on how stuff really works? Because people just use them because it works. Oh my lord, sorry. The answer is yes, and it is a scary proposition. So you Chris, you're an amateur. So if I talk to you about cache coherency, do you have a clue what I'm talking about? I understand what caching is because I have to do that in my enterprise job, but it'll be very, very different about.
So for instance, if I am accessing, so we've got a game and there's 100 monsters in the game and they each have a health, and I need to find out if all the monsters are dead. And to do this, I have to run over every monster in the game and make sure they all have a health of 0. Very simple. If you write it correctly, what you'll do is you'll query the first monster's health. Now, on an Xbox 360, querying a single 32-bit number hits the 128-bit cache, and you get 4 numbers come in on the level 1 cache. You can then access these next 3 numbers really, 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 really fast because they're in the cache. If you work backwards up the list, you attach the bottom one, which doesn't help, that causes a cache miss, cache miss, cache miss, cache miss. So simply by iterating a list in 2 different ways, you're talking about a performance difference of 1,000-fold. You would never know this working in something as high level as C#. It's all down at the guts.
Yes and no, because I have to deal with different types of enumerations and different types of lists within C#. There are multiple types of lists, and they're all good at a certain thing. There's LIFO, FIFO lists, there's index access, but I know it's a very different thing that you're talking about. This is a much more low level.
From that, you're talking about there, but so if you've got a list and a queue, as far as I'm concerned, under the hood, a list and a queue are exactly the same. You just get different accessors. I don't believe that they're optimized for performance. I mean, this is just one thing. So, say again, on Burnout, we were told that if you have a float variable declared at the top of your class, and you tend to read, let's say, the speed of a car and then the weight of a car, make sure those 2 variables are next to each other, and always read the speed of the car first, because the weight of the car is stored in the next segment in memory. It's in the cache. And that is the difference between your game running at 30 frames a second, your game running at 60 frames a second. It's unbelievable. But when people are using engines at high level, they don't know any of this stuff. They don't get taught it. There's no way to find out. If I didn't learn this working at a very low level on the PS1 and PS2, I would never have known these things.
And you're therefore at the mercy of the people who write the engine as well. So, I mean, there are issues that I've run into, not probably performance issues yet, but there are issues I've run into in Unity that I can't access, like the I can't access properties of the Shuriken system, the particle system. And
that's a pain. That is it's a pain, that one,
and
actually.
you have to reinstantiate stuff, and you can get around it slightly, but it's still not perfect. And they say you can't access it because it is too low level, and because we need control to do the optimizations. And it's like, is that a cop out, or is that? It sounds like a cop out to me.
The old particle system was actually a lot better on that. For you can actually use the old one still, and that actually is more configurable from scripts.
I've just put a link into chat, by the way, which is a blog post that looks at all of the C# classes and the optimizations that each one of them do, and I use it quite a lot for referencing which is the best. It may be way past what you're referring to, but I believe there is different types of classes that you can use for different scenarios, or a better use for different scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, well, what you're looking at there, I mean, you're quite correct, but that's talking about optimal ways of searching things. It's not even that. I'm talking about purely the lowest level of writing your code to work well with the hardware. I'm not talking about the algorithm, which what you've linked is quite correct. Use the right algorithm. That saves you more than any optimization ever will.
Yeah.
But it's the using. I mean, the other things, like I hope you never ever use for each in C++ in C#. For each is an enormous performance killer.
It's more performant than using link, though.
For next loops, what you should use. For each generates garbage around the loop, but again, if you don't dive into your code with a profiler or have someone tell you, you'd use for each for everywhere. Going, it's fine. It's only when someone goes, this for each is about 3,000 times slower than using for next.
I ran some benchmarks on link for each's for nexts, and for nexts are much quicker. Even a while loop is much quicker than a for each. But I don't understand why, because I'm a high level language. For each,
every time you do for each, it generates an instance of that delegate, and that creates garbage, and it's just horrible. I mean, even if you want to go back, for next loops are not the most efficient way of doing it. In assembly, you use something called unrolling a loop. So let's say, for instance, you've got an array of 8 things, and you want to set them to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You could do loop around 8 times, set the third one to the third iteration. Very simple. You find doing that, you spend more time incrementing the I pointer and doing the jump than the actual body of the loop. So you did this thing called unrolling a loop, and you would actually just go I0 equals 0, I1 equals 1. You would just literally write out the loop in code. And again, that could be, oh my god, 50,000 times quicker.
Yeah.
Adverto, I think he's old. Bless him. He knows this shit.
Well, the thing is, I said as a high-level language programmer, I tend to not worry about that too much. It doesn't really seem to make much difference to the enterprise stuff that I do. So far, it hasn't made that much difference to the Unity stuff. But I'm sure when everything else is running in the game, it will start becoming a problem.
If you try that, not literally, but try this. Try simulating 10,000 zombies in a world. At that point, you'll sit there going, how do I shave off 20 instructions from this loop? Because 20 instructions in that loop, times 10,000, times 60 frames a second, and you are desperate for any performance. And a good profiler will save you. But it's not until you start pushing to the limit of what you need to squeeze out of a machine that these things apply. And again, as a console developer, this was the most important thing. And the proudest moment of my life is when Sony came to us and they said, we're testing the PlayStation 3, we're testing the PS2 emulation on the PS3, and we're using Burnout 3 to do it. And we're using Burnout 3 because we used every bus, every chip to above 97% utilization. There was nothing left in that peak computer. The Burnout 3 is the most efficient game on the PlayStation 2, bar none. And we rang every drop out of that poor machine, and it was amazing that we could do that, and the game looked and ran so much better than anything else because we worked our ass off. doing
Good
that.
stuff. Good stuff. We've got quite a lot more questions, so I'm just going to ask Josie. Josie, do you think we should run over a little bit today because we've got a lot to say? Are you still around? No, she's not around at the moment. No, there she is.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm here. Yes, hello everybody, and for those of you who are new to the MMOBuff channel, welcome. We have an awful lot going on. It is wonderful to see such opinionated individuals coming on our show. Both Chris and Adam are insanely opinionated, but yes, we do have quite a few questions. I think it is well worth us running over because these are questions that we are looking for from everybody. As a reminder, folks, we do have a gunner competition going on. We're giving away the very first pair of, in my opinion, fiery orange, they're gorgeous intercept glasses. I'll be putting that information in the chat, but I really, really, really recommend hitting every question to the best of your ability. And just so that you know, Adam, we're so having you back.
Definitely.
Oh, thank you.
I like
so
you.
even if we don't get to everybody's questions, we will definitely be having Adam back to discuss things another time as well. But I will now be quiet. There are quite a few questions. Some of them are really simple, easy yes-nos. Some of them are a lot more complicated, especially when you start getting into, the pricing costs for the development of a game. Because one of the things we do try to stress to everybody who is into independent development is, you're not necessarily going to come up with the next Angry Birds. You're not necessarily going to come up with the next Flappy Birds. And in the end, you still have to pay your bills.
Please don't come up with the next Flappy Birds.
No.
Well, apparently Adam has an opinion on Flappy Birds as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys go back to chatting. And for those who are wondering who the disembodied voice is, my name is Josie, a.k.a. Pseudo, and I am running the MMOBuff chat right now. Normally I'm on the show, but today just couldn't do it. So, but there you go.
But your voice is like silk, apparently, according to Voltus5 in the chat.
Why, thank you, Voltus5. Yay, silk voices. But yes, on that note, run over, get these questions answered because these are the things that are really important. People want to know this, especially if they're already in independent development or they're looking to get into it. Let's inspire a new generation to do it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remind people about Game Jam as well.
Yes, okay. I'll just put that as a note, if you would, for me. I'll try and remember.
I will say, mentioning Angry Birds is a very interesting thing because it's very important to note that Angry Birds was Rovio's 52nd game. They had 51 failures. 51! That's one game a week for an entire year. Failure, Angry Birds!
Yep.
So, if you are an indie dev and you do not imagine your first game will be a success. Fortress Craft was my 11th indie game. It made nearly $4 million. It did very well. In total, the 10 games I wrote before it in a 2-year period made $7,000. So, and this is with 12 years AAA experience. I borrowed artists from work. We made good games. They just might not sell. So, because someone mentioned about funding for an indie game. The best way to get funding for an indie game is to have a day job. Then, when your game has made loads of money, then you can quit. Do not quit to write an indie game. You will 99.9% chance regret doing that. It's not a solid business plan. Go to your bank going, here's my plan, and they'll be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
What is, they say to you, how do you know your game will make money? It's a very famous case, I think I'm allowed to talk about. Activision bought up a company, and the developers on that game claimed that Activision was doing something they shouldn't, and the judge basically said, right, and they said, we want $20 million in damages. And the judge went, how are you basing that? And they go, well, that's what we thought the game would sell. And the judge's like, well, what are you basing that on? Now, at this point, it became very apparent to the judge and to Activision, Ubisoft, EA, Blizzard, everybody, is you do not know how much your game will sell. No. Nobody knows that. There is no such thing as a surefire success. If there was, every game would be a surefire success. And the judge ruled that games you cannot sue, certainly in America, for lost earnings on a game because you cannot prove in any way how much that game would have earned.
What about when it comes to IPs? I imagine that's why big studios, and in fact anybody, keeps hold of IPs for as long as they can because they know that they've at least got some way to project. They're not, again, there's no definite, but there's no definite in anything in life, really.
Yeah.
But what about...
Well, I think people would buy anything with Mario on it. I mean,
Yeah.
My God, have you seen some of the Mario games?
Well, if you look at the
have been released?
Assassin's
It's one of
Creed
those things.
games, the Assassin's Creed games, historically they've had interesting innovations in them. I mean, the parkour in the first one I was really impressed with, but the rest of the game was meh, you know? And they've consistently just kind of missed the mark with all of the games, but people keep buying them. They're still buying, and you know, there's still bugs in them. It's rife in some of the games, but people keep buying it because they are unaware of better games that are out there with more value. You know, I'm talking about indie games again. There's a lot of indie titles that you can get for a couple of quid now that are infinitely better than any of the Assassin's Creed games. You know, we need to tell
I know what you
people.
mean. Yes, it's. I mean, sadly, if you look at the gaming community these days, I'll say the hardcore gamer, we're in a minority. If you want to make a lot of money, do not aim for the hardcore gamer. Do not aim for the people who want to play obscure, hard games. They want to play Call of Duty. They want to feel like they're the most badass guy in the world. They want to tear through, be the hero, and they're happy. And you know, it's the equivalent of sort of Transformers, you know, Hollywood blockbusters. If you want to make money, those are the people you cater towards. You do a cheap game with low system requirements. It's not in the slightest bit pretentious and is really, really, really cool. There's your moneymaker. A lot of it, like something like Papers, Please, an amazing game. Most people would just stare at it going, what is this? Is this like from a Spectrum or something? Again, it's a great game, but it won't sell. Actually, that someone mentioned Path of Exile. That's a great example. Great game, good game, but commercial disaster. So I play Diablo 3. Diablo 3 to me has one very important thing. It doesn't penalize you for respeccing your character. At any point you can go, I'll respec, or click, done. A minute, done. Path of and this is important. So if you're playing by yourself, you probably spec a combination of DPS and tanking. Someone joins your game, oh, you know, your mates come around, oh cool, you've got a tank, I'll respec DPS. In Path of Exile, they've got the Path of Exile has a skill tree that scares people away from playing games. Have you seen it?
I've got it. It's one of those games that I've been recommended, but I've never actually opened yet. It's on Steam.
Okay, so in Path of Exile, you've got sort of a circle here for your skill tree, and then you've got 6 major things. So we'll say, for instance, archery, casting wizardly spells, summoning things, rogue. But as a wizard, you could work your way down one skill tree and up another. It's incredibly and amazingly complicated. But they're of the opinion it is correct to punish the player for playing the game and making a mistake. So you play the game and you're an archer, and you, for some reason, because you're an idiot, you put 10 points into heavy armor. Then a couple of weeks down the line, you think, oh, I could really do those 10 points because I'm stuck on a bot. To respec your character, if you have played the game for more than 2 weeks, it is quicker to start a new character than to earn the resources to respec your character.
What?
They are of the opinion that people's time is infinite, it is throwaway, and they are of the opinion that punishing a player is a good thing.
This is why I don't play MMOs anymore.
Horrible.
Because
Diablo 3's gone the other way. So Diablo 3 has gone down the mass market appeal. It's cheerful, it's bright, it allows you to make mistakes and doesn't punish you for them. And this is something that I like Path of Exile. The potion system's amazing. I love the way you earn skill gems. It's great. But punishing a player for making mistakes is a really bad move. You can do well on that. Dark Souls punishes you for making mistakes all the time. Dwarf Fortress is built an entire game around punishing you for making a mistake. And that's okay. But say if you want to make a game with large appeal, then you must realise how big a market you want to aim for.
Well, you've got, I mean, 2 indie games have popped up in my head while we've been talking about that. One is Fez, which doesn't actually... You fall off a platform and you just start exactly where you were. There was no life lost. You don't have a number of lives. You can continue to play the game and complete it because you will complete that game at some point if you're interested in it. So why punish the player for it? And the other one that strikes me as really, really good but punishes you terribly is FTL. Have you played the FTL?
Now I have a big beef with FTL. FTL is an indie darling, and everyone rants about it. And
I personally love it.
This game is it's fundamentally a shit, broken game. You can play the game, and if you do not make it all the way to the end, you achieve nothing. It doesn't. There's not like
you do
anything. You've got to achieve like the certain the achievement goals to unlock the new ships.
Yeah.
But majority of those, I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, hold on. So I basically need to get one of these guys to appear in this sector, and then 2 of these, and then I need to be lucky on here. And and I played the game for like an hour and achieved nothing. Going, I have wasted my time. I want to progress. No matter what happens, if I fail, I want to progress.
Do you know what I've done with FTL? And the reason I brought it up is because it's one of the very few games that I've cheated on. And I don't cheat. I'm generally, I stay away from console commands. I stay away from switches and stuff to open up games and give myself infinite lives or whatever. But FTL, I've got a save editor. So you save your game, you start a game up, you save it, then you go in and you edit it and you give yourself however much money. I've just given myself infinite scrap. And it's a much nicer game to play because I don't have to worry too much about the resources. And I still can't complete it because it's difficult. But it's difficult and very, very... it hates you.
Yeah, so my solution to the game would have been, if you complete a mission, if you complete the game, you get to keep one character at the level they were, so your new games are easier. Now, okay, so Mythalore, I'll address that one directly, the roguelike. So, in in a game, if I get to a boss, and let's say I could do something before the boss, I can play the game and I can get better at it. That's fine. There is a limit to how good I will get. And these days, I'm fairly old. I have been playing games since before anybody was born, and I am not going to get any better. So if I hit a boss, a perfect example is the bank robbery mission in GTA 4. Oh my god. If you've played GTA 4, you'll probably sit there going, I remember that mission. I just couldn't do it. I had got as good as I was going to get at that game. There was no way to back off, prove my stats, prove my gear, and go back in. The same thing with FTL. I'm as good at FTL as I'm ever going to get. I am at the mercy of the random number generator.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If you're a rogue player, great, go for it. I'm not a rogue player. I stopped playing roguelikes 20 years ago. These days, I would like to play a game, progress a little bit, just something. Just, you have unlocked 1% better shields because you have played the game for an hour. Some sort of progression. And not just relying on the random number generator.
Because we're all busy as well as adults. At the end of the day, I want to save my game or pause it and go and have my tea, spend a bit of time with my wife, go and do the shopping or whatever, then come back and play the game again. FTL is very much right. If you want to complete this, you need 2 hours, 3 hours of your time to actually dedicate to it. Which is kind of how the old games used to work, though. If you look at things like,
but there were a lot fewer games. There were a lot fewer games back then.
Yes, exactly. Right, next question. You're a talker. You've got a lot to say, and it's all very interesting. But we've got a lot of a lot of other questions. So, Mythalore asked a question. What are the best independent distribution platforms at the moment?
This is a very bad answer because I actually own one of them. So I would say the best one is Indie City, and you should all buy your games from Indie City and stick it to the man.
Cool. I'll
Steam,
check that out.
Steam being the man in this case.
Right. Okay. I haven't actually explored that yet myself, so I don't really know what there is. I know a lot of people talk about itch.io, is it?
Yes, itch.io. I always call it itch.io.
Itch.io. I've never
and
used it
Scratch.io. I don't know. I've never said it out loud before.
But yeah, I unfortunately can't answer that because I'm not in that position yet with my indie devs. So, but yeah, so got a bit of pimp in there.
Yeah.
Sanitation Gaming. How do you publish your game for selling? What's the best PC for coding? What is the best PC for coding? I'm not sure what the second bit means, but let's answer the publish bit.
Well, certainly. One thing, again, back to indie dev here. Laptop. Get yourself a good gaming laptop. I'm currently talking on, this is my main portable gaming dev. This is an 11-inch Alienware laptop. It was very, very expensive, and I love it to bits. It's got a great battery life. And if I want to go and sit in the garden and code, if I go to a pub, I can sit there and code. This is my natural state. Someone said about this to me. So you said if I became a multi-billionaire overnight and I bought my own desert island, you'd find me sitting there on my lounger, my toes in the beautiful surf, dolphins, coding. Yeah. That's my natural state. If you have a laptop and it's a good one and it's got good battery, no matter where you are, if you get an idea, you can work on it. On
my side of things,
highly recommend.
I prefer having an office and a place to sit and concentrate. Again, not everyone's the same. Everyone's got their own way of concentrating. But as long as you are not procrastinating, be honest with yourself. If you're sitting there not doing anything, do something about it. Get an office, get a laptop, whatever. I have a powerful desktop. I've got 3 monitors. I want more monitors. You've got lots more monitors than me by the looks of it, but you've got lots of systems as well. So
I just put the link to there.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what I found is if you are moving towards professional indie dev, I've got a 3D monitor, I've got a 120 hertz monitor, I have a reference grade monitor. So this is what I found. I used to use my reference grade monitor everything, and stuff looks astounding on it, bright and vibrant, gorgeous color gamut. And then I look at it on a television, going, I can't even read the text. I don't know if you remember the King Kong game, launch title on Xbox 360. No one ever ran that game on anything other than a HD TV. So when it came out, all the people with just normal SD TVs going, the text isn't readable.
right.
Microsoft went, oops. So yeah, this is something I will say. If you're going to release a game, you want a top of the range reference grade monitor. It's about 700 quid. If it looks good on that, no, let me rephrase that. Anything will look good on that. Also get yourself a 70 quid, 17-inch nasty e-armor. Make it look good on that one. If it looks good on that, it will look astounding on your reference grade monitor. But it's very important not to have just good monitors, because you will make your stuff, other people get it going, this looks shit.
I've got the same. I used to run a recording studio, and we had exactly the same thing with monitors, but we refer to monitors as speakers. When you're doing A/B-ing, when you've got an album, when you listen to an album on a CD, it's the same kind of thing. It's been played on really terrible, tiny little speakers that have got a tinny sound on them with no bass or anything like that. It's been played on, full rooms of speakers that are all, configured and professionally set up. And the same goes for game dev, yeah. I mean, I never actually thought of that. I didn't think about how my game would look to other people. I just want to get it working, I'll be honest, at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's a good bit of advice, that, and I will take that on board. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got a few questions about the Source engine. First off is, what do you feel about the Source engine? Is it hard to use? Easy? Explain. Have you had any experiences of it?
Yeah, I was actually one of the members of. I haven't got it to hand. Damn it! I've got somewhere the original Half-Life Source SDK, the original one, Half-Life 1. I have all the source code. Valve sent it to you. It was brilliant because there were so few of us back then. They just wrote on a CD and put it in the post. So I've got a post written by someone. I'm like, what's this? Yeah, I can't really recommend using it. It's only really for the one platform, PC. You've got the Mac and the Linux versions. If you're not doing a first-person shooter, you are going to run into issues very quickly. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of a single thing that Source offers that Unity doesn't, and I mean that absolutely literally. I genuinely could not recommend it for any reason at all.
And also, really, as you just said, it is proprietary again. It's another one of those systems that's written by Steam. As much, I mean, I kind of like Steam personally. I know there are issues with it when you in the dev community, but as a gamer, it's very convenient now. It didn't used to be. Yes. It used to be very much like, oh god, why are we? But now broadband's prevalent, and we're always online. It's a lot more easy. It's easier to handle. But yeah, the Source engine, I imagine, is very limited to, as you said, FPS, and very very limited to the amount of things you can do in it. Just if you, as we've already said, go for Unity or UE4. I mean, I would even say CryEngine. You said don't go for it earlier, but if
I worked on a commercial game in the CryEngine, and I could not say it was a pleasant experience.
Okay,
it is so geared towards first-person shooters. We were doing a fitness game. I have no idea why someone decided to use the CryEngine to do a fitness game, but we managed to screw up at one point, and the guy's holding guns suddenly. We're like, what's going on in this? So yeah. But the thing about Unity, more than anything else, is it is free. Unity free. You can write a really good game in Unity free. There is zero barrier to entry. If you think your game is going to make enough money to warrant buying the Unity Pro, which gives you all sorts of cool features, absolutely do to it.
So I've just read another question that I've only just read. This is going to be interesting for your answer for this. How much money does it take to make a game?
How much money is it? Minimum. If you don't pay yourself, minimum is zero. If you've got your own stuff lying around, then you can make a game with zero investment. It is possible. It's not very likely.
It's a question of time as well, though, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, if you So Fortresscraft was developed. It took 10 weeks and 6 days. There were five of us that worked on it off and on. It didn't cost me anything. It cost me like 20 quid for the website. But if I pretended that I paid myself, suddenly that game cost $100,000, something like that.
Yeah.
At the other end, GTA, that's like 300 million for those games. So you have to be aware everywhere, from nothing. I would say if you are paying, I would say it is nearly impossible to write an indie game for under £50,000. That's going to get you one dev, one artist, a year, and they're not very well paid at that point.
Yeah.
And you cannot buy any hardware. So yeah,
Now
50 grand minimum.
My dilemma at the moment is that I need team members because I don't have all the skills. I can do the programming. I'm willing to accept all of the risks and all of the stuff that surrounds it. I'm doing the game design, I'm doing the script writing, and things that I can do. I've got a little bit of experience from other walks of life, but when it comes to the art I need to get other people. I'm working on a revenue share. Now this is and here we go, right? It doesn't work for everybody, the revenue share thing. The reason that it works for me is because I'm being very, very open and honest with people from the very beginning. It's taken me a year to get two and a half team members that are reliable and are interested in this, and it works for them in their life. One of them is a stay-at-home father, and he doesn't need to work for various reasons. Another one has just finished college, and another one has lots of other freelance stuff going on the side, and he is well aware that it's a long-term project, and he's, something may happen at the end, or it may not. I'm very open with them. I have to tell everybody exactly how we work and exactly what their expectations should be. And I'm not trying to say you'll get experience, because that's a load of crap, isn't it? At the end of the day, you can get experience yourself. You can get jobs yourself.
The thing about revenue share, you've got two things. So I always revenue share on a couple of bases. First of all, if the game makes nothing, I'm not liable. This is important. I have quite a lot of money in the bank. If I start paying 5 people full time, that money is going to disappear very, very, very fast. The theory is that by doing revenue share, I'm encouraging you to actually finish your job. I'm encouraging you to do as good a job as you can. And I've said this to people. I said, look, you get 10%, whatever. The quicker you do it and the better you do it, the more money you will make. It is that simple. And one guy, I actually put it in the blog post about earlier. One guy, he's like, cool, I'll do planes for you. He did a plane. He took like 6 weeks to do a plane. I'm like, cool, we need like 50. He goes, I've been really busy. I was like, I've got you on Steam. I can see that in the last week you've put 107 hours into Call of Duty. You're not busy. You are more concerned with playing games than developing them.
Exactly.
That's no use. The thing about revenue share, and this is the best bit, Fortresscraft made an insane amount of money. The sound effects in Fortresscraft, there were only about 20 of them, and the guys were on revenue share. My sound effects cost me nearly £2,000 a sound effect. So revenue share, it's okay. They did a lot of work, and we did work over and do many more. But literally, I think I had the most expensive sound effects ever in a game because we'd done revenue share. And again, before that, they guys had made nothing, and they're basically working for the hell out of it for fun.
I'm working on again, it might be inexperienced, but I'm working on a flat basis. Everybody gets 10%. Now that might ring my bells in your more experienced head, but for me, again, I'm making sure that everybody is invested in the game.
Are there 10 people on your team?
No, there aren't. Now, that's another thing. I have plans for a number of people. Obviously, on top of that, I'm doing the vast majority of the work myself, and the only thing I'm not doing is the art and the music. I've decided to get a composer to do the music and the sound effects. So we've got a composer who's acting as a sound designer and composer. We've got me doing everything else, and then we've got a number of modelers and hopefully an animator at some point, and there'll be someone else. So there'll be about maybe 40 or 50% left by the end of it, maybe, and that will be mine, or it will be the company's, because I'd like to invest it and go further with it. The thing is it's all talk at the moment, and there's nothing. There's a game there, but when you look at how much the contributors have actually contributed, even though one modeler in particular has contributed a lot of props, for example, there's still not much there, and the expertise isn't, above and beyond. It's quite. I'm very
Have
appreciative.
you?
Don't get me wrong.
With that, have you looked on the Unity store? So this is something I'm finding. I'll say to Andy, my modeler is great. Again, I ask him to do something, I get a great model first time, low poly, brilliant. But I have this issue that, like, I say to Andy, can you model this? And I'm like, it's going to take you like 2 hours, and I can buy, and 2 hours of his time is worth about 30 quid. We'll say 30 quid. I can buy a whole bunch of Unity store assets that are probably as good as, if not better, he can do, and they're textured, so I don't need to bother my artist. So I get to the point now where I'm just going, okay, I need a cauldron, $5 done, cauldron, brilliant.
And you're happy with that as a final production piece?
Yeah, hold on. If I'll show you that. So I actually, as an experiment, released a game on Android, and it is literally, I'll link it to you. It is 100% asset store assets, and you tell me if you think that is a final production quality set of assets. And this is an Android game. This isn't high-end PC. This is mobile phone game. So I just released that a few weeks ago. It was a 3-day game, and I released it using nothing but assets from the asset store. And I'm like, that looks great.
It does look great. Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, so it's yes is the answer. You do have to be careful. There are some assets out there that are absolutely awful, genuinely. You know, they're mind-blowingly high polygon, or they're just not suited. These ones is done by a guy called Michael O. I've bought nearly everything he's written. This guy is insanely talented, and just does entire sets. But that city, you can rearrange it, you can fiddle with it. It's the right style. It's got all the color correction shaders. It is AAA quality, and I think that cost me $60. And if I was to ask my artist to do that, they'd come back and be going, dude, this is going to take 6 months.
Yeah, yeah.
So, absolutely.
No, you're right there. Maybe I should start looking at assets
look
in a bit more detail.
You do. You'll get into the habit. First of all, it will feel like cheating, because you're like, oh, I need a car. Oh, there's a whole pack of like 20 high-quality cars for $10. What's the catch? What's going on? But what you'll find is a lot of these guys, they've done the models for their own games. They've done the models for games that have collapsed, and they're just selling them to make money.
Yeah, yeah.
But now the asset store is becoming a very big deal. So what's happening is that people are actually creating assets purely for the asset store.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember. Let's take $50. I bought a pack of 100 fish for a project I was doing, and everything like little tiny fish, giant whales, dolphins, all animated. And I'm putting them into the game, and then I'm like, I don't know, this fish is like 10 times as big as it should be, so I had to scale it down. And then I realized that some things had excess of forwards, something is excess forwards. And then I realized all these fish were from different places. These guys had accumulated all these fish from other places and bundled together in a pack to sell on the Unity store. So, you know, theoretically, some of the things you might see them in other places. Most assets are so generic. If you do a gun, it doesn't matter to you if your guy modeled the gun or you bought a gun for $1 off the Unity store. It's just, you know, it's an M14 or whatever. It doesn't matter in any way. Where it does matter is like bespoke stuff. So if you want to have a very unique character, you'll probably need to get that modeled. If you've got a unique spaceship, you might be able to get the Unity store. You might want to do your own. If you've got like a unique spaceship and then loads of other spaceships, those other spaceships probably you can just grab them off the store. There's even modular spaceships packs and spaceship designers, everything. It's amazing, the Unity store. I genuinely cannot recommend it enough. If you're an indie dev, you can write a game without any artists at all. You can get everything off the asset store, and that is a wonderful development for devs.
Yeah.
Really, really is.
I think my issue is that I've created a kind of futuristic sci-fi world where none of the things that I need exist. So I'm having to get them modelled and, you know, get that over to concept artists and modelers themselves. But yeah, I'm going to have a look at the asset store in more detail, because we need things like pigeons and, you know, things to make the world feel a bit more ambient and realistic. Time for another question, I think.
So I've just linked. So I don't know if that's at all suited, but that's a Michael O asset. Again, you can see the quality of the assets that you get. They're not rubbish.
Nice.
I'd like to point out, I actually do regular streaming of game dev. Every Friday I spend doing nothing but streaming game dev. I'm currently writing, and I'm being serious, and I'm sorry, I am writing Milk Float Simulator 2014. We've got a Steam stock. This is a real game. It really is coming out. But the important thing about the game is that it is only developed in the public eye. Every single thing in the game, people have seen me get the assets, write the code, implement it, and this is the best bit. All of the best ideas have not been mine, they've come from people watching it. And currently the best idea in the game, and this is weird, are speed bumps. So it's a milk float, in the back of the milk float's got all the milk crates, and you have a little camera just here so you can see what's going on at the back. Speed bumps send all the milk in the air and smash down. And I was just like, that's a brilliant idea, and it wasn't mine.
So, right, the next question is from Adverto. How much time do you spend coding of the features of the game versus optimizing it?
When I was working on the Xbox, it was approximately 3-to-1 on optimizing the development. On PC, I would say I spend 1 day for every 10 optimizing. So 10 days of dev, 1 day of optimizing. And a lot of that, though, is because I have written so much code, I know the way to write it the first time. So not because I'm like super clever, just because I've done it 20 times already, and I'm like, you know, this is a good way of doing it, this is not a good way of doing it.
I still haven't hit any optimization issues. I've got a fairly large world. I mean, I've been playing with occlusion culling and light baking and things like that but again, this is stuff that Unity provides, and I haven't needed to, you know, it's a default
loading times?
Loading times, as in the levels. I've actually just started reworking on my save system, because I've got a serialized save file that, you know, that saves to disk and stuff.
But if you're using like baked and occluded, you might find that loading those in is quite a drain.
Right.
Certainly on a low end hard drive, you're sitting there just churning away. Hiding loading is a difficult thing to do.
Yes, interesting. Yeah, I said I haven't got enough experience of it yet to really comment on that, but
I'm popping in now. We will be doing a show on how to hide loading, because, you know, that is something that we have had requests for. And for those of you who are again wondering, hi, I'm Pseudo, I'm jumping in to kind of remind people, we are getting kind of close to time, so I'm going to let you guys pick one more question that you would like to tackle.
Do the one about TA Spring. Do the one about Spring.
But yes, as a reminder to everyone, we do have a competition for gunners going on right now. That thing will go up, but as soon as they are done, I will come back, let you guys know a little bit of things, and I'm going to pick on Chris to tell you guys a little bit about game jamming, because this is something that will be coming up. We're doing a game jam for charity. But on that note, just to let you know, timing.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no,
sorry,
it's great
one.
listening to you guys, especially when you guys get into huge debates. It's absolutely brilliant. But yes, just so that you know, and we will have him back, so it's not like you can't access him again.
No, I'll be
this
on,
is
I'll
for
be
everybody
on
watching
now anyway, so.
And also make certain that you are following DJ Arcus on on Twitch, and that you're also following Bid the Dog, because both of these two individual independent developers do streaming of their game development. So you guys are going to want to make certain that you catch them for when they're doing their streams and things like that. So if you're not following them already, do make certain that you are doing so. And on that note, I go back to typing in chat and leaving you guys to talk.
I just want to very quickly, someone asked if the Spring Engine is good for RTS things. Nice trying to be obscure. Yes, it is. The Spring Engine is very, very good. I am my other claim to fame is I am currently the national reigning champion at Total Annihilation, which is what the TA Spring Engine was developed to replace. So nice try on trying to catch me out. They don't do them anymore. I'm sure somebody would beat me these days.
Fair enough. The only Spring that I know is I think it's some kind of MVC engine for enterprise dev, again, for websites and things like that. I don't personally use it, yeah. Right, so you've asked that one. One last question, then I'll quickly talk about the game jam. This is again fairly interesting. Sanitation Gaming says again, how do you see your game while you're coding it? Depends on the engine.
No. I think what you mean, like when I develop a game, the game I see is not the game that I'm writing. The game I see in my head is the final game.
Okay.
Unless he means how do I see what I'm doing, but in that case, these days you hit play and it looks exactly the same, and that's nice. But when you're writing a game, for instance, in Fortress Craft, one of the things I want to start doing in the next couple of weeks is nighttime attacks on your base and you've got mortar defenses, and I can actually close my eyes and I can see the mortar defenses. I can visualize how they're lighting, the explosion coming out from the mortar thing, the trail of smoke, all of these things. I can visualize these even though I haven't written a single line of code for this yet. And again, that comes with a lot of practice, is trying to decide what you want, visualize it, and then work out how the hell you make that happen on a computer.
And so also relaying that information to your team as well.
Yes.
If you've got a team.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've got a great system. They do it, and I go, "That shit," and they're like, and then it's good. And I go, "How many polys is it?" And they go, like, "Yeah, do it in 1/10 the poly count." And after a couple of iterations, we've got it spot on.
Yeah. It's similar to us. We back and forth, but we also have a lot of concept art as well, etc. So yeah, I mean, in terms of, I'm going to answer it from the other side. How do you see your game while you're coding it? If you've never ever done any game development before, generally what you have is you've got even when you're doing a C++ game, I imagine you end up building tools, you end up building an engine of sorts, and then it has some kind of scene view, so you can move around like you would in a 3D program, or like you would maybe in a game even. You would move around inside the scene view, and then you would,
luxury.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I know you don't always get that in every engine, and you don't always get that, especially if you're writing your own. But the AAA game studios, they have a tools team quite often, and the tools team will be responsible for developing these tools that the designers and the engineers and the sound designers, everybody can get involved with. I know that doesn't always happen, but I know it does. When
I started programming on PlayStation 2, we had 45-minute compile time and no scene view, and you know what? We were happier back then.
45 minutes.
40.
Jesus.
It was a 17-minute compile time if you touched a source file, and a 45-minute compile time, and I'm not judging it, down from 7 hours. And if you touched a header file, you
didn't have a scene view as such. You couldn't see.
Didn't have a scene view. Oh no! You got it right first time.
Jesus Christ.
Unity, in Unity, you can play and you can tweak stuff and then save it. It's incredible. But
it's amazing.
Literally, I watched the whole of Neon Genesis Evangelion whilst coding, or whilst working. I'd sit there, I'd make a change, I'd hit compile, and 45 minutes was about the length of an episode. I would sit there at work, headphones on, watching the whole episode. What are you doing? You're like, compiling.
That's an ongoing joke, though, that, isn't it? There, what are you doing? Why is he not working? Compiling.
It's true these days. Thankfully, now we have distributed builds. We have what's called Unity development. Nothing to do with the Unity engine. It's a way of developing header files, which was developed musically by EA for Tiger Woods. And we got that on black, and we went from a 45-minute compile time to 17 seconds. Nice. We were all just like, "This is it can't have compiled. It can't change. Just really works. Oh my god! Wow."
God, I complain when I've clicked play and it takes me a couple of seconds for my scene to load in Unity. For God's sake.
Yep.
My scenes are quite large now, so they are taking a noticeable amount of time to compile. Right, so yes, thank you very much for coming on the show. You've been very informative, very friendly, and I will definitely have you back.
You're flattering me.
I hope you're as receptive on Twitter as you are, because I'm going to be...
I am. I'm always... I love stupid questions. I love answering stupid questions. Send as many as you like at me.
You're similar to me. I'm not as comfortable in game dev as I am in my enterprise world. I'm a lot more knowledgeable in that world. But yeah, it's I love talking. I love talking to other geeks and picking their brains and letting them pick mine and things like that. But it's been very, very cool. I'll definitely be checking Fortresscraft out though, because again, I haven't really looked at it in any detail. I didn't realise it was as popular as you've said. I didn't realise it was.
Like I said, I do a lot of gaming shows and gaming events, and the amount of people say to me, "Well, good luck on your game," and I'm like, "Dude, we've shipped well over 1 million units," and he's like, "Oh. Well done then." And I'm thinking, as an indie dev, you should be able to list me, not you, this isn't how we go, the top 10 best-selling indie games. You should be able to just go blah, 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 blah. And if you don't know, do some research. And then you go, Limbo sold well. No, Limbo didn't sell very well. Oh, From Dust? No, From Dust. Fez, really not that big a seller.
No.
And you'll find that a lot of the games that get talked about don't actually make the money. And
well, it's controversy, isn't it?
It's controversy. And... look at I'm trying to name some games without pissing off any friends of mine. But there are a number of indie games of the more pretentious ilk, and then you dig down into the numbers they sold, and you realise everybody talks about them. They don't actually sell that many. From Dust. Oh my god, From Dust tanked. Utter disaster. Great game. Really enjoyed it. Complete disaster. So,
it's all interesting.
Fortresscraft, wildly reviled as a Minecraft ripoff, and we stole everything, and we're just trying to cash in. Very, very negative response, and oh my god, did it sell. So, having a positive response and making money are not always the same thing. I don't know anyone who says anything good about Angry Birds. Most people just slag it off. Same thing about Facebook. I met Farmville. I met one of the Farmville devs, and I was like, holy shit, dude, let me shake your hand. It's like, it's just Farm. Like, dude, you wrote Farmville. That game was played by like 500 million people. If I took every game I've ever written in my entire life and added all the people together, it wouldn't come to like 10% of what you have managed.
I'd be honest with you, I don't see that as again, you've been in the industry a lot longer, but I don't see that personally as an achievement. I want the people that play my game to like it. That's all I want at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not actually that bothered about the money at the moment either, because I'm doing stuff for next to nothing. If it starts rolling in, excellent. There's no guarantee of that, and I'm not daft.
I mean, once you hand in your notice at your day job, at that point, your priorities do change.
I appreciate that.
I am lucky. I do have quite a few years' money in the bank. I don't have to make money, but I do want to. I don't want to have to worry. I want to be able to buy things without stressing about whether or not there's any money coming in.
Well, that's my problem with indie dev in general. I have quite a lucrative professional life, and I make a fair amount of money in it. But the problem is I've got promises to keep to my wife. I've got, there's bills to pay. There's a house. There's future. And
I mean, when I left the games industry, I ran the audio department at Sumo. I was on 58k a year, I think. I was on a lot of money, and I quit out of that to essentially earn possibly nothing. So, but it really does. It really is a very difficult thing to do. That transition from AAA to indie is terrifying. From anything, that in transition from a regular paycheck, no matter what you do, no matter how ill you are, no matter how much holiday you take, you get paid every month. And suddenly, if I don't work, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
And that's...
and I said that's why I'm not doing it full time, because I can't afford to do that at the moment, so I just have to live with it. Right, so yes, thank you very much for being on. The Game Jam. So yes, the Game Jam that we're doing is going to be between me and Danny, I believe, and we're going to have some teams. If you, viewers, are interested in getting involved, send Josie an email, and it is voice@MMOBuff.TV. Send Josie an email. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a modeler. You can. I believe we're going to be pairing people up as pairing. Oh, very beautiful, very beautiful.
What's attention?
Oh, you can't. I love cats. Is that your Manx? Is that your Manx Coon?
That's Maine Coon, yes.
Maine Coon, not Manx. Sorry.
It wants attention.
So yes, the Game Jam. So we've. If you're interested, get involved. Send an email to Josie. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a modeler. You can just, I don't know, maybe get involved with the audio, script writing. So I don't know, whatever, game design. There's lots of different things. So Josie's going to match everyone up and pair everyone up for it. We're going to do it over, I believe, a weekend in a few months' time. And yeah, so that's the podcast. You can find MMOBuff in social media. MMOBuff on everything, basically. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and obviously Twitter.
Are you on ICQ?
I used to be. I can still remember my number.
Yeah, 325-458.
My ICQ number is only 6 digits long.
Oh, I'm 8 digits.
Yeah, mine's 8.
Mine's 6.
One of my friends has got a 6-digit one.
Just you did miss out. You did miss out your MySpace there.
Some of us try not. I will state, for those who are unfamiliar with it, there is an entire community devoted to gaming known as Anook, ANOOK, and we are on there as well. If you ever want to get your hands on a community that loves to talk games and give input, that's definitely a community to go for. But yes, and I will add an extra thing about the Game Jam. The Game Jam, if you decide you would like to participate in it, definitely get in touch with us, because we will pair people off into teams. It will be streamed for 48 hours. It will be done for charity event, but don't come in with no knowledge. pick up something and learn. If you want to write something in Unity, pick up Unity and start playing. If you want to do art assets, look at how art assets are created for the various engines. And if you want to do music, already have some experience in music. Now's the time. We're giving you guys plenty of time to get your hands into it, because you can always work with the team to figure out what's the best way to do this. You're not planning in a game jam to come up with a finished game. You're coming up with
Has the theme been announced for the jam, by the way?
No, that's going to be a surprise
Secret.
theme. I'm not going to tell anybody the theme, although there have been hints that it might have something to do with a cat. But I'm not mentioning anything one way or another. But a theme will be given, and then the teams will go off. They'll do their brainstorming, they'll come up with their prototype, and at the end of the 48 hours, we'll let the entire audience decide which one they think is going to be cool and not. And there will be prizes. There always are.
Prizes.
But yes, oh yes, prizes are amazing. But yes, if you're interested in getting into game development, remember folks, the number one thing you need to do is just do it. Don't sit there and talk about it. Buckle down and do it. And honestly, Adam, you had the greatest statement. If you are more interested in playing games, play games. If you are more interested in getting behind that code, put the game down, pick up the code. If you're more interested in the artwork, put the game down, pick up the artwork. There is a give and take that has to be made.
And it's hard
yes,
work
I think,
as well.
yeah, it is hard.
Very hard work.
The best way, I think, to judge if you're a game coder is if you sat there in a game and you have died, because you're looking and going, how are they doing that? How are they doing that effect? And you've been killed because you're too busy looking at trying to work out how they did something. You are going to be a good game coder.
Wow, that pretty much sums up me. But what I'm working on a tabletop, which is a different type of game. But anyway, with that, I leave it for you guys to say goodbye to everyone. And I'm sure, Adam, you'll let us drag you back in for more.
I would love to come back. It's
things.
been excellent fun.
Yes, so
And I want to also let you guys know that we have had an awful lot of responses. The transparency that is shown between you guys is very refreshing.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I said I love speaking to other people on the same wavelength. I know Adam's got a lot more experience in the game industry than me, but as long as he doesn't, as long as someone doesn't look down at me, then I'm happy speaking to someone. And Adam's very much, very, very friendly. And I'd recommend anyone speaking to him on Twitter and go on.
I've been doing it long enough to realise that I think I know everything, and I'll go in a year's time. I'll look back going, what was I thinking? So yeah, wherever you are in your development process, there's a long way to go.
Oh yeah, I know that.
No matter how good you are. So I know that definitely.
I also highly recommend, if you are a fan of Legos, build a Lego cat and send pictures to Adam on his Twitter.
Yeah. I like Lego. Yeah, see, Lego's cool.
Yes.
Mine's in
But
the
a Lego
attic.
cat would be awesome.
For those of you picturing the mystery voice, by the way, you sound just like Leela from Futurama.
I sound like Leela.
You
I
really
do.
sound like Leela from Futurama.
Wow, I've
forgotten
been
the
told
name
I
now.
sound like a lot of things. I've been told at sometimes I sound like Gladys from Portal,
Yeah, I can imagine that.
the companion cube, and things like that. So, yes. So if you ever need a voice for your game,
I know where to come now.
now I sound like Edie from Mass Effect. All of these games, which are awesome, and anyone who references me towards Firefly, I love you. I love Firefly. Bring it back. That's what we should do, a Firefly game at some point. But
Well,
anyway,
There is a Firefly game.
no, we should
Ooh.
remake one.
There is one coming soon. It's out. end of this year.
No.
Yeah. So you should. When we finish it, go and Google Firefly game. They bring in the original cast back to do the voice acting and everything. Really, I'm not making this up. This is really
No.
Your
This is
wish
where-
has come true. In 5 seconds, you go, I wish we had this. It exists. Brilliant.
You know what it is? The bad part about it, and this is one of the things when it comes to fans, and we'll have to do a show about this sometime, is when you have fans who are so in love with a show, the number one response that you get is, there's a Firefly game coming out. It's one of those responses is, they better not screw it up.
Oh, yes.
And the question is, how are they going to actually encapsulate what made Firefly such a cult following in a game? And yet the problem is, you cannot please everybody. And in all honesty, you shouldn't try.
No.
Well,
No,
I
that's
put a link just for you, just so no one thinks I'm making it up. But it's really true. So we'll see. I look forward to that.
All we need is
Hopefully
a
it'll be
Twin
great.
Peaks game, and then I'll be a happy girl.
And we've got the new Blu-ray, haven't we, this week that's been released? I have
bring
never
me
seen
Twin
Twin
Peaks.
Peaks, and I am intending to get the Blu-ray and binge on it.
Okay, if you've never seen Twin Peaks,
know.
you need to make certain you have donuts, make certain that you have pie, and make certain you have coffee on the go. I
You
actually
also-
have friends who get together with me for weekend events of watching Twin Peaks, and we have pies, cherry pie to be specific, donuts, and coffee, and that's all we do for the entire weekend.
You'll need this face. You'll need to sit there going, what is going on?
Oh, no, I know that. It's David
what
Lynch,
is
isn't
going
it, at
on?
the end of the day. You know?
What?
I think I'll watch it followed by Eraserhead, and then maybe Don't Look Now beforehand. I've never seen those two films
Videodrome,
either.
while you're at it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm,
boy.
Yeah. You need Videodrome and scanners as well. We got it for the
I
whole
haven't seen
David
either of
Lynch
those
shit.
either. Jesus.
Yeah.
He does
Absolutely.
more films than I think.
And the last thing for me to bring up before I let you guys go. Remember, folks, we here at MMO Buff, we do more than just talk games. We actually play them as well. And we've got some things changing and coming here. This Friday, we have a show all about WildStar, which is an MMO. And it's an MMO that punishes players. So you might want to check that one out, Adam, because it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But so Saturday, we have our top draw coming back with Infinity Wars. Unfortunately, again, I'm not going to be on that show. Luckily, the only way I can put it is the omnipotent Dr. Marshmallows has done a brilliant show without me. Monday, we have hopefully Ms. Pabak and myself, although we may be getting a special guest who happens to be a friend of Chris's, who is a developer as well, who might be coming on to talk with us about games, and we cover everything in that show. From the player's perspective to the developer's perspective, we talk about MMOs, we talk about online games. We basically try to rip it apart and try to come to an understanding. Tuesday, it's all about the campfire, where we're discussing communities and online communities and how you can have strong communities and break the status quo of every online community is just out there to troll, bully, or be horrible. We had a very lovely girl on, Donna Price, last week, who happens to be a community manager, just left ArenaNet, but she's been involved in everything from PlanetSide on over. All of our shows will be up on YouTube a week after they have occurred here on Twitch. Subscribers get to watch them immediately afterwards. And then Wednesday is the Blizzard Forecast, where we have the entire Blizzard franchise is looked at by a variety of people who are playing the alphas, who are looking at all the things that go on in the Blizzard world. And then next Thursday, we're back with the Datamine. Hopefully we'll have Danny back. Danny is a little busy with something that we can't quite talk about. I should hopefully be back by then. And Chris will hopefully be there. And maybe we'll have yet another guest. We have quite a few people who are interested in coming in and talking to us, including people who work for PR companies. People who work for distribution companies. And how unprofessional of me that my phone went off in the middle of me saying that. But yes, on that particular note, I now leave you guys to say your bye-byes and everything. And Adam, it has been an absolute pleasure. Chris, as always, a dream.
Thank you.
You don't know what to say.
Before we go, I'm going to get this in here. I wasn't sure if I wanted to or not, but I also do another podcast. I've just started it this week, 6:30 p.m. on Wednesdays, and it's just a gaming podcast. We haven't got a name for it. It's not particularly professional at the moment, but we're just me and a few friends. In fact, the friend that Josie mentioned that might be on the campfire, I believe. He's
Monday show.
Monday's show, yes. So yeah, if you're interested, Wednesdays at 6:30, we stream live on my Twitch channel at the moment. It may become a bit more professional later on. We'll see how it goes. But yes, probably not. It's probably just us swearing between each other. Anything else you want to say, Adam, before we go?
Don't buy my game; it's rubbish. Buy Kerbal Space Program; it's way better.
And with that, we shall leave you. And thanks to the audience as well. You've been very accommodating this week. There's lots of questions and like that.
And for you, Mythalore, you can get in touch with us at voice@MMOBuff.TV. I dig my fingers into that on a daily basis. Sanitation Gaming, Adam is not a current host with us. Who knows? Maybe we can convince him. But he is a guest, and he has been an absolute dream, considering the fact that he and I started talking, what was it, Tuesday?
Yeah, I think you emailed me. I think we started talking about 3 hours ago. So
yes, we started talking
really.
about 3 hours ago. But he's been an absolute I should say trooper, considering
Darling.
Right. Darling, you're
Yes,
fabulous.
I know.
Absolutely
Thank you,
fabulous,
thank
darling. Darling, you know, now I absolutely want to watch Ab Fab. Great. But yes, and don't worry, we will be bringing him back. But we are looking at a lot of different developers from a lot of different independent companies, from a lot of different jobs. Because remember, folks, to get into independent development, you don't have to be a coder. There are other jobs out there. We had a brilliant artist come on and talk with us. Patrick was full of information for people who are just involved in art, and all they do is create art assets for games. So if you want to catch that, you can catch all of that information on YouTube. It's youtube.com/MMOBuff. And if you have a topic you want us to discuss, like shaders, rendering, what have you, do let us know. And in fact, if you let us know by getting in touch with us right now, you guys have a chance at getting your hands on Orange Introspect Gunner glasses. But yes.
Right, so yes, so thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you to Adam, and thanks for Josie for looking after us, even though she's ill. And hopefully next week we'll have a full house again. Bye, everyone.
Bye.